You know, Jessica, on the back and forth on the environmental issue and who's doing more to address it, hearing Wheeler, who's not Scott Pruitt, doesn't carry the baggage, the personal baggage that he does, but he does depart from his boss on climate change.
I was surprised to see it. It's a rare departure, I would say, especially on an issue that has been so central to kind of the president's, you know, maybe it's a Chinese hoax, it's definitely not man-made, and with the number of regulations that they have been cutting, I think it's over 80 at this point, at a fearsome pace, contributing to the climate crisis. That's what Kamala Harris now calls it. I think it's important to have people like that in the administration, but also to be having the conversation that Democrats are having about what we can do to address it, and that's what AOC and Bernie Sanders are doing with their climate resolution.
All right, now their climate resolution is something that even party leadership is a little leery of for the time being, in that it can go too far. People will brand it too expensive, you know, and this friction continues.
Well, basically, you're saying what will happen with this resolution is what exactly happened with the Green New Deal. I mean, all Mitch McConnell had to do was actually bring it to the floor for a vote to show just how silly and unserious Democrats are. This is not about being a champion for the environment. I think the president laid out some points yesterday talking about the environment, talking about how to be responsible while still allowing economic growth. What Democrats want now, once again...
Would you seriously say the president's a champion of the environment?
No, I think the president is doing... I mean, they added $1.3 million acres of wilderness. I mean, you can go down point by point a few things that the president has done, but he's trying to be responsible and not sell out the economy for this sort of panic over climate change. Imagine if we gave Al Gore a blank check to do anything he wanted to do vis-a-vis the environment based on his not too scientific prediction that we'd all be, you know, living in huts by 2016. That's what Democrats are after once again, and that's what we should prevent.
You know, one of the things, Jessica, the president was trying to remind people of is I think you can have it both. He talked about that he loves solar energy. You can have going on that. In prior speeches, he's talked about wind and all the rest. Have it all. Jump ball. He wasn't going to favor one over the other, you say.
Well, didn't he say that wind turbines cause cancer? And I know that he said, I love solar, but I would encourage everyone to watch Shep Smith's show from yesterday, because he was live fact-checking the president's comments on climate, and there were a few whoppers, to say the least. This climate resolution will go the same way as the Green New Deal. It is non-binding. It's a conversation starter. It will certainly feed the media narrative about...
Wheeler, by the way, in our conversation, had dismissed a lot of the things that the New York Times had raised, quoting these agencies that have a vested interest. We can go in this back and forth.
Absolutely.
But I am wondering whether you think the administration is unfairly maligned on this subject.
I tend to not find the administration to be unfairly maligned, but I hadn't seen that Wheeler fellow before, so that's nice to know that there are people in there. And there are certainly moments, I think, of common sense agreement, and there are certain things that are indisputable, and he's right, we have to follow the law, and the scientists have been clear about this, and the Supreme Court has been clear about this. But the idea of finding a middle ground when the party's positions are more represented by what President Trump is saying than what Wheeler is saying here, and frankly, Wheeler is more compromising than Scott Pruitt is, who's actually, as you say, the person who's in charge of all of this. I think you do come to an impasse where Democrats really feel like they have to drop the hammer on this and be talking about the climate crisis all the time. It's not the #1 issue to Americans, but it is an issue that matters.
But it's an issue that's pricey to address, too, depending on how deep you get into this.
And that's the point. You know, starting, as Jessica said, from a middle ground is tough when you're talking about a $93 trillion cost. That's $600,000 per household.
Well, do we know what Cortez and Sanders are going to be espousing?
We don't know the price on that, only the Green New Deal.
No, but look, you know, the Green New Deal had a lot of fundamental problems, and as Jess pointed out, you know, Democrats are going to have a problem saving the environment when they're on the backbenches in Congress, because this is something that's not the #1 priority, not the #2. I think Gallup had it down to number 15. I think Pew had it as maybe 4% of people care about this as the #1 issue going into 2020. I mean, this is not an issue that's going to win back the White House for Bernie Sanders. It's going to give him some momentum in the Democratic primary, but it's not something that's going to win back the White House for the Democrats.
Democrats, the polling that you were saying, I think, was the general public. Democrats do care about it more than Republicans. That's been going on for decades. It is an important issue to be addressing. People would feel like their candidates for president would be remiss in ignoring this. We have someone, Jay Inslee, is running a campaign on climate. I mean, that is his whole thing. And I thought he performed really well. He was in the first debate the night with Elizabeth Warren. And I think that hammering the progress that they've made in his state because of moving to wind power, solar energy.
I don't know if that's enough to close the deal, though.
You know, it's early.
Right.
You can never be sure.
You can't.
At this time, wasn't Donald Trump, just coming down an escalator, 0.02% or something?
Guys, I want to thank you very, very much.